You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do. Hello, people-centric leaders. Today, I'm your host with my co-host, Philip Herzog and Bethany Taff. Say hello, guys.
Hi.
Salutations.
Salutations.
Podcast listeners, it is great to be heard by you.
We're so glad you're all here.
I was just going to comment because I just want to derail our topic right off the bat because I like to do. But I was just noticing how it looks like me and Philip are in the same room but different rooms. So we're in the same but different rooms, and it's weird
because the rooms are identical, but they're different.
They're identical and different, and it's they're really cool. We got these new phone booths that Andy Anderson made for us. So this is the plug for him.
He's amazing.
He built these for us. They're really great. Hopefully the sound is awesome.
On the topic of community, Andy has done work in many people-centric households, and now even our office. Yeah, so these soundproof phone booths are incredible. They're amazing. So shout out to Andy Anderson. Solutions by Anderson.
Yes. Solutions by Anderson. All right.
Love it. No, and Philip just touched on it. Today, we wanted to talk about community, and what a great tie-in of our community is all connected. Community is part of our people-centric framework. I don't know that we've talked about that a ton on this show, but it is a basic human need. And we try to connect human needs with what organizations need. And when you connect those two things, it makes a workplace a lot better. So we often get questions around community. And I thought today might be a good idea to just sort of talk about what we mean when we say community and how we can build community at work and beyond, right? Because it is a basic human need. And so I wanted to just start out with posing the question of what do we mean when we talk about community? What does that mean to you guys?
You know, when I think of community, and maybe I always think of our tagline, team, client, community in that order. Community both includes the team, the people that we work with here directly, our client groups, of course, as well, and then the community beyond. So it's not that you're a partner that we're linking arms with every day, every week, but that's Springfield, that's Tacoma, that's the communities where our folks work and serve all over the country. And so I would say it's both internal to who we are and what we do, and then external and how that impacts the world around us. Solutions by Anderson being a part of that, right? The relationships you build along the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like that, where it's it's like a group of people who's kind of like sharing resources is one way I think about it, but with care. I don't know. I think you can sometimes share resources, but I think we do it out of joy, or we want to help support people or whatever. And so I think both internally and externally, internally on a team, we are sharing resources. So that's why, Solutions by Anderson has been used by so many people, because somebody is connected to them and said hey, they do great work. And then somebody used them and was he was awesome. And that's kind of how that works. But we do that all the time, just on our team, even with hey, I tried this really great recipe. I want to share this recipe with you because it was really yummy and I think that you would like it. Or it could be, a higher need than that. But I think that we do that internally on our team. And those are some of the things that I think about when I think about community, both in the actual work that we do to say hey, let me help support you with this. Or, hey, it looks like you're struggling in this. Can I help jump in on this? But it could also be within our personal lives as well.
I was going to add, I love the way you said that. Community probably implies it's not a transaction, right? I'm not necessarily in community when I go to Price Cutter or Whole Foods. So it's some shared amount of collaboration. And then I think of vision, a certain amount of shared vision for the future that goes beyond a transaction.
That's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And we always say we added community to the framework because humans are tribal, right? That we're a village. And you always hear the phrase like, it takes a village. And it does. And while our communities are not quite set up for that anymore, it's still ingrained in us. Like we want to be part of the village, we want to belong. There's a deep sense of belonging. And so we add that to our framework as part of the work that we do. And so I kind of wanted to also pose the question of like, how do we do that? Because it sounds like building community, you're like, oh, you're just friends with people, right? Like you care and you share resources and you're just friends. That sounds nice. But what does that really mean? What are we really doing? And how are we trying to install community?
I would love to know your thoughts on this, Diana. So sorry to flip it on you.
No, it's good. It's good. It's funny that I'm asking the questions today because I'm
We
I
should have
I what?
we should have been asking you the questions. I think.
I have a lot of things to say on it, so I
Yeah.
might speak a little more than usual. But I always start with community at work and think about we talked yesterday, we had this little meeting and we talked about how we build relationships. And to me, community is not just being friends, but actually building a deep relationship with someone, building trust with someone. And so, we've had many podcasts about psychological safety and building trust and all of those things. But I think one of the things that you have to do, which we identified yesterday in our meeting, something that we all naturally do, is you have to care, which sounds very soft and it sounds very, I don't know, artsy. I don't know the word for it. It doesn't sound businessy, right? It sounds very like, oh, that's therapy. But it does take a decent amount of actual caring and authentic caring to start the conversation on building trust. And Philip, you are insanely good at building community. What is some of your secrets? Because I think you do this exceptionally well.
Oh, well, thanks. It's funny you say this. I'm right now wearing a sweater, literally, that I bought when I was in India per the invite of dear friends that we met in Springfield, right? So the world it's a great place to make friends. If I was going to say two main things that help make community, and I think this is true of our team and true of me, a little bit of that idea of care for me, I always assume it's like the idea of good faith, like genuinely being able to celebrate and care about someone else's wins or good things, even if they don't directly tie into you. And you could say, well, of course you say this. You're paid to, care about your clients and the lives that they have. But I think that there's just some amount of joy. If you get some joy or interest in learning about the good things of others or the hard things, I think that's what a good faith caring looks like. Like I see you beyond the things you can do with or for or next to me. So knowing that place a little bit, just like being involved and caring about the people. And then the second, this is definitely a hack, but I think just like finding out the quirky uniqueness of a person. And so I think we do that in a way as consultants with the whole culture of a team. Every organization is different and every organization has its own quirky culture. So just kind of imagining, I do that. I don't know if that anyone else does that on our team. Like I kind of imagine, like in Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, there's like the different villages and like they kind of have different themes, right? Like the dwarfs are good at these things and the elves are. I kind of think that with our companies we work with, and they're all special, they're all unique, but
That's
kind of like knowing their
amazing.
personality, right? Yeah, manufacturing, they're more dwarf-like. They get the hard stuff done. They go deep. They dig it. So maybe that's not helpful for a lot of people. I'm probably derailing us, but I think like learning the personality and then having fun with that and rolling with that. And so we're not different people to these clients we work with or to friends that we have. I think we show up the same, but a part of meeting people where they are is learning like what do you care about, what's important to you, and then in that idea of community, and then like still building that shared vision together into the future. So I may have just said a lot of words that don't make any real sense, but I think just doing that, like caring is showing up and asking what's interesting, what's important to you, remembering that and honoring that as you work together into the future.
I think a very simple way to say what you just said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you help people feel seen, right? It's not just about your interaction in the moment, it's that moment and every moment after. You see them for who they are and what
Yeah.
what they're giving to
I
the
love
world.
that. I think it's felt because it's real. And so it's
Yeah.
probably frustrating if someone's like, how do you help someone feel seen? That's maybe a different podcast. But yeah, I think we genuinely see people because that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. I want to ask like what else do we do that helps you mentioned meeting people where they are, and I think we should talk a little bit more about that. What does that mean? What are we doing there? What is meeting people where they are? And
Yeah.
why is that important?
Well, and I think it's kind of what you touched on. It's the helping people feel seen. That's the meeting people where they are, because I think it's so often, especially in workplaces, right? We're so quick to just jump to like, okay, we've got to get to business, right? Like we've got to get to the to-do list. We've got to get through the agenda. We've got to get to this thing. And sometimes it's like stopping to acknowledge what's going on in the room, or to just like check in with the person to see like where they're at today and how they're showing up into that meeting, because like we're all humans. And so I think it's just also a recognition of like that the person that's in front of us is not just like a transaction. It's that they're a human, and that we have to be able to acknowledge that like there's probably other things that might be impacting them today. Maybe they're in a great headspace and just like ready, like focused on work and like ready to be there. But I think it's usually pretty obvious when people aren't. And so being able to say, like, to just stop and acknowledge that and say, like, hey, something seems a little bit off, or like, hey, how are you doing today? Like, how's your morning started? Or, just being able to ask, or like if you know more about what's going on, to be able to ask about that and say, hey, how is your kid doing? I knew that they were sick earlier this week, and how's everybody feeling in your home? Or whatever the situation might be in front of them, but just being able to take a minute and ask that, because I think that those are the opportunities that people turn towards you a little bit and are like, oh gosh, like thanks for seeing that. I think about like meetings that we've jumped into where it was like we did kind of have a tight agenda, and we really needed to have a conversation, or we needed to build some trust, but we thought, maybe if we start jumping into these things. But actually I think the times that it's worked the best for us to build trust with somebody is to be able to say, hey, like you've had a really full schedule today, like it seems like you've been back to back to back, like how are you managing that? Are you doing okay? Like, do you need to take a breath? And the amount of times that we've taken the moment to stop and do that, I think it just causes people to turn towards you and say, like, oh, thank you so much for seeing me. Yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. And sometimes people need just a minute to say, like, yeah, thanks for seeing that. I'm doing okay, or I'm not doing so well. And that's okay. And maybe we have to talk about that for a little bit. But I think it really is important to humanize people within the work that we're doing, and I think that's one way that we meet people where they're at and build that community.
Yeah, I love that. So we've talked a little bit about, where this philosophy comes from and kind of how to build some of it. But I also really want to dive into why it's important, because I feel like this is a very soft skill. Building community seems like a soft skill, but it's hard to do. And there's tons of things that we do to do that. But why is this such an important thing to have at work? And why is it so important to humans to have?
I came across a phrase this week that I really loved. I'm a fairly positive person and it can feel watered down. I don't like it when people assume I'm just saying nice things to everyone. I'm aware of this, but it's this phrase of informed praise. It's the difference between a leader or a friend or a community member or a neighbor that just is singing platitudes to everyone all the time, right? If you meet a jerk and you see someone say the exact same things to a jerk that they say to you, then you're like, well, you just say that to everyone and your finger gun praising everyone. So I think a part of why community is so important to what Bethany shared, there's kind of this earned praise that happen or informed praise, right? Where it's like, wow, we see people's successes and goals, and that's incredible. But we also see where they struggle. And I think we get a behind the scenes look at what they've done on purpose and sometimes through the gritty frustration of it to arrive where they have, and even more clarity on what they're still working on because every team, every person's a work in progress. So I think there's a vulnerability that adds to community that's important. And so just like Bethany's example, a consultant could show up super polished all the time and pretend that we have all the answers, or expect our clients to be perfectly put together and professional at all times, and kind of mask and be appropriate of like the corporate air quote leader we would expect of them. And so I think one thing that we need is just part of being seen as being able to be real too, where you're having challenges or frustrations. And we do the same. There was a meeting I had last week. I showed up. I misread the point of the meeting. And so in the middle of it, I realized, oh, I am the one that was mistaken. And I hated it. Oh, I hated it. I hate it still. But it said, hey, you guys, I thought we were going to talk about this today. And clearly this other thing is what's important to you. So this is on me. Do you mind if we meet again in a couple of days? They were incredibly flexible and it was good. And again, you could have BS'd through the meeting and I could have pretended to just adapt in the moment, but I was not honestly prepared for that. And so, again, I think that honesty and vulnerability are so important for community.
Yeah. And what do you think? Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. What do you think they felt when you were honest and basically said like, wow, I messed up, right? What do you think they felt, and how do you think that affected your relationship going forward?
Great question. We had a great meeting on Thursday, so I think that helped. I was prepared and showed up right the next time. I think apart when we talk about like good intentions and good faith, there's still, those real impacts. I think, Diana, you've mentioned this is maybe a future podcast. Like good faith still has challenges, even if you have good faith, something goes wrong. It still means work for someone somewhere. So right when I paused it, I think there was a look on their faces of like, okay, well, we're 20 minutes into this conversation and I guess we can adapt. There's kind of a pause of like, what? Are you doing this? But then it was relief. And in follow up after they said, hey, thank you for doing that. We're glad that you called that. Because at the start we realized maybe we weren't aligned. So for me to just call it out and name it and then own my part in that, I think it meant a lot to them. And in the long term can build more trust. If that happened every time we got together, that would be frustrating and a pain, right? But I think it's led to good relationship continued on.
I love that. I do. I love that. And I think you're right. I think that when people are able to be authentic in and feel safe in that authenticity and be like, hey, I'm gonna own this. I think it does build more trust. I think it does show that you're human. It did all of these great things at once that showed that you really do care. And I think when you care, it then creates that community a little bit deeper. So I love that. What else? What else can we do to, I guess the question I'm trying to lead to is what can we do to build community for ourselves? Let's say you're not getting it work. Let's say you're, not happy with the community that's being built there, or you're a leader and you want to build more community. How do we do that? Where does that come from, and how do we build that for ourselves?
Well, so we were talking about like external community too, as we were prepping for this topic a little bit too. And so I do think that that's one part of it too, of like, if you don't feel like that community is very deep at work because it's a basic human need, like we need that belonging somewhere, and it doesn't feel very deep at work, then we should be hopefully in some community externally too. And so I think that that's been really important for all of us too. I know that like I won't speak for you, Diana, but I know that you have like taken steps, especially because you work apart from the rest of our team. So you don't have the experience as most of us were like, we're coming into the office and being with each other, even though we feel like we have good community on our team,
Yeah.
like being physically present can impact the way that you feel about community within your work as well. And so I know that you have taken steps to like find some community externally, but I think everybody on our team has some kind of other community. I think about like people in our team who are in book clubs and hosts like dinner parties and things like that, because those are the things they really enjoy and that's where they find community. Or some of us who are within like church communities and serve in those different places and things like that, or other just like networking groups and around town, or like nonprofits that we are a part of and go support and go to fundraisers and help fundraise for those different for those different causes, or, whatever it may be. I think those are the different areas that we have jumped into. And then where we can, as a company, like we've been able to try to like invest in those different things for us. So if we've wanted to be a part of a group, I think we've made like financial investments to say like, yeah, go jump into this networking group, or this go, invest in. I know for me, like I did a coaching program this last year, but that also has come with a community that I still get to be a part of, and that's really cool that I have this other kind of community that I get to be a part of. But I wonder if you want to talk about what that's been like for you too, Diana.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on we have a deep team community. We all really like each other. We all enjoy working together. It's one of like my favorite things about this office life, is that I enjoy the people that I work with, and we're intentional about building that, right? Like you and I talk when meetings aren't scheduled. You'll just call me on your way home from work, or I'll call you when I'm on a walk with the dog. Like we do those things, and we're intentional about that. But also, I wanted to find a local community, right? I wanted to be involved here so that I have an expanded community, because you guys cannot, you as my team cannot give me everything that I need in the community sense, right? You guys give a lot, but you can't give it all. So yeah, I've joined the chamber here. I have joined some city commissions. My husband's really active in some neighboring communities. So like I go to their rotaries, then I go to the fundraisers and all that good stuff, to just be around like-minded people and hear what others need, and be a resource for them and a connector. And I just like doing that stuff. It does fill my cup, and it makes me feel like I'm a part of something bigger, and like I do have a tribe, and I have a network of people that I could call on if I needed something. And so it was different because I was very, very connected in the Springfield community. Obviously, you guys are all there, and we built the company there. And then moving, I was like, oh, I miss that. I miss being part of this like village. So yeah, it was a weird experience, but it's turned out great. Like I think what I've learned is people are amazing everywhere. You just have to find your people. And so yeah, I've really loved all the differences that I've seen and found and got to be a part of. So it's been great. But I also love how you touched on, we invest in community, whether that's with dollars or time, right? Like, and I think it does take intentional investment to build a community.
Mm-hmm.
We intentionally call each other. That's a time investment. We intentionally go to these fundraisers or whatever. That's a monetary investment, right? And a time investment. So you can't just build community as a spectator. You kind of have to get in and get involved and do it. You have to
Yeah.
do it intentionally.
Yeah. And it's been cool too, I think, as our team, like to just be, there's those external communities that we're each a part of. And it's cool I think for us to be able to get to see a little bit of those communities for each other too. And even though like, just as an example, Philip's really involved with like our local zoo and like fundraisers and supports that. And it's like so cool. And so we get to come to some of those fundraisers, and we get to benefit from having this great membership. So I get to take my kids to the zoo because like Philip is more involved in this thing.
Yeah.
So it's fun that we get to see those things. Or like we are just sharing about it. Like you said, we're going to those events, and I might be going to events that I wouldn't probably, it's not the thing that I am as passionate about, but it's cool that I get to kind of have a window into it for some of these things. Or I hope it's okay for me to share this for Philip, but like Philip also, he preaches sometimes at his church.
Yeah.
And so sometimes he'll share that with us, and we can listen to it if we want to,
Yep.
or, if Stephanie has her book club, like I know that I can ask Stephanie, like, what's your book club reading right now? Like, tell me what it's
Yes.
about. I want to hear it. Like, did you like it? Did you not like it? What did the group think about it? And
Yeah.
so we get to kind of see those windows into each other's separate communities too, because we are sharing those with each other.
Yeah, they do weirdly start to intersect too, right? Like I will call Stephanie and be like, what did you cook at your most recent gathering? Like, give me your best recipes. And she's always got it, right? Or she'll call me and be like, what are you baking? Tell me what you're baking. Like, what are you doing right now? And so they do overlap and intersect. And I know if I needed anything in Springfield, I could just call Philip and be like, who do you know? Tell me who you know. And he would be able to do that, right? I truly believe that between like the the 5 and 6 of us, we know all of Springfield. Not a corner goes untouched. But it's cool that those things start to overlap and intersect. And Dawn yesterday came to me and was like, "What are you close to Gig Harbor? I met someone from Gig Harbor." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, like I can see it from my house." So yeah, the just it expands. Once you have a little community, all the circles intersect and they start to expand and you start to see where they overlap. And it just becomes a network. It becomes fun and you get to kind of intersect with all of those things and it's neat. Yeah, I really like it. I like it a lot. It's
Totally.
cool.
I
Yeah.
agree with that.
What else should we talk about today, Bethany? Is there something else we should
Well,
mention?
yeah, I mean, I was just gonna comment that, when we think about like what other things like leaders can do. I mean, I think and the benefit of it, I think that we touched on it, but like the trust that's built by also like telling the truth and being vulnerable within strong communities, and that's so much a part of it is that like when that community is really built and there's depth to it, like we can have really honest conversations, which is I think what leads us to like psychological safety, which we talk about a lot too. And so I think that's such an important element of it. And I know we've talked about this before, but like we always talk about that study that Google did several years ago. And so I don't know if you want to just like refresh the listeners on that really quick, because I think it does speak really well to why this is important too.
Yeah, of course. So a couple years ago, like Bethany said, Google was trying to figure out what made the best teams, right? Was it brains? Is it a certain number? Is it pizzas, right? What makes teams the most effective and efficient? And they studied tons of teams across their own organization. They studied people that had been there newest, people who had been there the longest, their most top rated engineers, their leaders only, the high performers, the low performers. They intersected all of these. They provided pizzas, they changed the environment. They did all of these things to just try to determine which team is going to do the best. And at the end of the study, there was no magical set of way to build a team to make it good. The thing that they found that made teams the best was what they called psychological safety. And it was the like, can I speak up without being shot down? Is it safe here? Do I belong here? Am I seen and heard? And the people that had psychological safety among their teams outperformed everyone else tenfold. And that's the business case for it, right? There's not just like a human case for this, which I do believe there's a human case for it. But there also is a business case. And I think we as a small team who actually like each other, people tell me all the time, they're like, you only have 6 people on your team, but you cover the United States. And I'm like, yeah, we get a lot done. And I don't know that most teams would be able to handle the amount of stuff that we do. And it's partially because we care and trust each other and we celebrate each other's progress and wins and we help each other before we're asked for help. And like, we genuinely care. And I think that makes us really high performers for each other as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think like even our conversation that we had as a team yesterday, I think that we regularly challenge each other too, And so I think that, and it's not out of like, I don't know, there's like no ill intent behind it. I think it's just that like we try to have conversations regularly where we're sort of evaluating like the work that we're doing or the approach that we're taking. And we have different perspectives on it. And I think that we are really open about those conversations and sort of say, like, I don't know if I totally agree with the way that you're thinking about that. Here's what I see. And we might ask really hard questions of each other, but I think that makes us better. I think that helps us perform at a higher level and it helps us build trust because we can walk away from those conversations and not be like, why were they like that? Why were they asking me that question? We can be like, I don't really understand that, but let's talk about it. It's never like it's not like offensive in that way, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I mean, nobody knows what we were talking about yesterday, but we were challenging like part of the thing that we do. We were challenging like, are we doing it the right way, or should we change it, and how should we change that, and what does that look like? And those questions are tough questions for the people who have sat in the room the longest, like Don and I, who have built this, and like, then it's like, okay, well, what are we building and what are we changing? And that's scary. Should we change it? What's working, what's not working? Those questions are hard questions to ask, and we don't think twice about it anymore. We just do it because we know that there's no, I don't know, retaliation maybe is the right word. I don't know. Yeah. So like, you can ask me a really hard question and I never think ill of you. I just am like, oh, Bethany's asking a hard question. That's what she should be doing. Right. And I think that's what makes everything work so much better for us, is that we can safely have those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's where you have a really strong community too. And that's where, if you think about like the healthy communities that you've had that are outside of work too, like what are the things I think that there are situations where we've all been maybe in another community externally too. And maybe it wasn't a healthy community. And I think you can pinpoint the things that weren't healthy about it. But I can also think about like the times that those communities worked the best was if we were able to ask each other hard questions, or if we were like, there's a little bit of sacrifice involved. There's resources that we're sharing. What would you say?
I said vulnerability, right?
Vulnerability.
Like that, like, I'm going to give, you're going to give, I'm going to tell, you're going to tell, that sharing.
Yeah. There's no retaliation where there's just like, no, let's talk about what it is, And so I think those are some of the major elements of a healthy community inside work and outside of work.
Yeah. And I love that we're talking about both the inside and outside, because I think people want community at work, but it's really hard to build. I think it's difficult to do at work. It takes intention, it takes time, it takes investment. And so I think if you're listening and you're like, man, my boss would never build community with me, right? Then build it on your team, build it with the people that you're working side by side with, because you do need that at work. Like, get it there somehow, build that with the people that you're sitting next to. It doesn't have to be like this organization-wide thing. It can just be the three of you or something, like try to find it and try to build it together while you're there.
Yeah. I think that's good. Yeah. And that's where and I don't know if we said this distinctly, but I think that's where people struggle, or they mistake what community means. And that's where we often see people doing like, oh, well, we're a building community because we're doing these like forced fun things, or these potlucks, or these like whatever it is, right? And none of that is bad, and it can be really beneficial towards community, but it's not the thing. If you're relying on that solely to build community, that's probably just not as effective. There's probably going to be pockets of community that happen within those areas. It makes it a little bit easier to just say like, hey, we've created some space for people to like hang out, but it's not the main thing that's going to drive community or engagement with your organization. And so I think that's a really important distinction there. So anyways.
I love it. That is what we have to say about community. I bet we could talk about lots of other things for a really long time. But yeah, if you have any questions about community, if you have any questions about People Centric and the work that we do, or have a topic you want us to talk about on the show, let us know. You can listen to the outro to figure out how to get a hold of us. But until then, we will talk to you next time. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the People Centric Podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and lead well.